Boan, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Northern Wall, your weekly talk show with Core, with me, your host, Kayla Malari. I know it's been a hot second. Has it? I don't remember anymore. So many things have been happening. I'm losing my days here. But it's been a hot second since we've touched the comic series. So if this is your first episode of Beyond the Northern Wall, you Boan and welcome. This is your weekly talk show where I talk about all things related to Core, including comics, anime, video games, pop culture, current events, all that jazz hands. This week, we're going back to the comic series. It's been a minute. We've had to deal with some serious stuff because the world is a-flowing around us. But we are now back on the comic series, and tonight, I'm going to talk to y'all about my top 5 Marvel movies. Now, before we go into that, let me just say, hold on. I love superheroes. We know this. This is why I'm doing a comic series at all, because I love comic books and I love comic book heroes and I love superheroes so much. I might make enemies, possibly more than I like anime. Like, that's the truth. I love superheroes. So when superhero movies started to become mainstream, I was excited because we had gotten like spits and spurts every now and then as I grew up. And then all of a sudden, Marvel came barreling through and did everything amazing. Now, as we know in my past episodes, I'm a hardcore, parkour Marvel fan, but I have this deep love affair with DC. Like, all my favorites are in DC. Here's the problem, though. The executives at DC, at Warner, who owns DC, I would say, haven't been really taking care of the DC characters when it comes to the cinematic universe or the silver screen. So it kind of really hurts. So that's why I'm not going to talk about DC movies, because that might be a different episode. That's just me I'm going to be mad. Yeah? I'm mad the whole time. Because there's things about the DC movies that I really love. There's actors and characters in it that I really love. But things are terrible around them. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Marvel and how wonderful and beautiful Marvel is. And this is my top 5. It doesn't have to be your top 5. And that's okay. If you have a different top 5, cool beans. After this live goes onto our YouTube channel, throw it up in the chat. Tell me your top 5 in the comments. Not on the chat. In the comments, tell me what your top 5 is, and maybe we can compare notes. But I'm going to explain to you and tell you why these are my top 5 Marvel movies. So, are you ready? We're about to begin. Here we go. I need to gather my bearings because I'm going to go on a tangent and then just fangirl. So, number 5. We're going to start with number 5. So, number 5 on my list of top 5 Marvel movies is the original, the one that started it all, Iron Man. Iron Man does stay in my top 5. It did move as more movies came out, and but it's holding that 5 spot. It's always going to stay in the top 10, but it's going to hold that 5 spot. And here's why. 1, when Iron Man first came out, I did not watch it in the theaters. The worst human being. I did not watch it in the theaters. So many people were like, go watch Iron Man. You're going to love it. And I was so scared. Because I think the last superhero movie I watched before Iron Man came out was the 3rd installment of the X-Men trilogy, the Fox version of X-Men, which was the Dark Phoenix one. That X-Men trilogy, ugh. The first one was good. The second one was cool. We finally got a sequel to a superhero movie. And then the third one, as a lot of us know, just kind of went off the rails. It was pure chaos. So I was kind of disappointed. I was like, man, you had such good actors to play these great characters. You're really establishing the X-Men universe. Everyone loves X-Men. And then you kind of just pooped at the end. So everyone was like, Iron Man. And I was like, I don't know. Iron Man is so... He's one of the OG Avengers. I don't know if they're really going to do him justice. Okay. So I didn't watch it for the longest time. What a blasphemous thing to do is not watch Iron Man. Then, when I first moved down to SoCal with my sister, we had our little apartment out in Irvine. I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and watch it. And I couldn't believe that it was just a good movie. Regardless of whether it was a superhero movie, it was just a good movie. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you know me as a storyteller, a lot of people, it doesn't matter if it's a big budget film or it's a little indie film or it's just people making videos on YouTube, people don't really have beginning, middle, and ends. That's a big thing with storytelling, is you have to have a purpose, you have to explain your purpose, and there has to be some sort of conclusion or some way to close it out so that you can continue on maybe, but your story has to have an end. And this movie had that. It wasn't relying on the fact that it was Iron Man. It was like, you know what? Let's make one good superhero movie. And if it works, it works. But we're just going to make a good movie. And they did one. Marvel did such an amazing job and service to Robert Downey Jr. For those who don't know, who are too young, Robert Downey Jr. prior to Iron Man had literally hit rock bottom. He had struggled with drug abuse. He had served prison time. His career had essentially tanked, but he really reformed. He really established himself in his rehab. He really took the time to work on himself. And so Marvel gave him the lead role of Tony Stark, and they trusted that this someone who Hollywood had basically written off, they trusted him to carry this movie and then eventually carry the entire franchise of the MCEU, the Marvel Cinematic Extended Universe. And holy cow, if there was no other movies after Iron Man was just a good movie. It was the first time we saw a superhero come on and be not perfect. We have always gotten Batman, but we always got Batman as this disciplined. It didn't matter if it was like George Clooney or was it Kiefer Sutherland? No. Was it? Oh my gosh. Was that Kiefer Sutherland? We always had Batman and he was like the well-to-do, I'm justice. Or we had Superman who was like the poster boy. Superman was, America's sweetheart. We always had these superheroes that were well-to-do and kind of really perfect and justice. And then here comes Tony Stark and he comes off and he's really cocky. He knows himself. He's so comfortable. He's bantering. He's just kind of saying whatever. He's not perfect. He's imperfect. And in those imperfections, we watch him and we see he's charismatic, but he's kind of a bad guy. And then we watch him go through this whole catharsis of changing his mindset, not because someone told him to, not because he went out to go look to be a hero. It's because he went through something that was life-changing. He became Iron Man because he came face to face with what the consequences of his work and his job was doing to the world. And I love that they were able to incorporate something that was really prevalent at the time, which is all of this unrest with overseas in the Middle East. And that was something that for me in my childhood, the conflict and the constant trying to find peace in the Middle East is what defines my childhood. So having a superhero movie where you have an iconic superhero in the bright red and gold, kind of touching on issues that I'm seeing on the news, was bananas. I loved that. I thought it was so cool. It was a great way for me as a human to relate to it, but also as a nerd to relate to it. And then it was just a good movie. Like who? What? Oh, hi, soulmate. Oh, my soulmate's here. Oh, my soulmate made it. She usually is always working at this time. I'm so excited. Distracted. Soulmate distracts me. But yeah, Iron Man is definitely top 5. And again, if it wasn't for Iron Man, if it wasn't for Kevin Feige, who's the head honcho at Marvel Studios, really taking a chance to make one good movie, which is what he always says. He's like, just make one good movie and everything else will fall into place. Clearly it works. They made one good movie, and then this sparked 4 phases, 10 years, an entire roster of superheroes. And if you're being, if you're at home playing the stock market, billions of dollars. So like, mad props to Iron Man. So stinking good. Yeah. So that's my top 5. Coming in close at number 4 is Infinity War. Oh, did she just do bars? Did it just rhyme? I'm a rapper. That was terrible. I apologize. Infinity War, pause, comes in at number 4. If you space the words out enough, it doesn't rhyme. She says in her head. It comes in at number 4, and I had to really think about this because honestly, most of my top 5 are the ensemble movies. I think it is such a feat to have an ensemble movie of superheroes and these A-list actors and try to give enough time to tell a good story, but to give enough face time to these amazing actors who have their own fan base, but also the heroes that they portray because their heroes have their own fan base, and yet make it seem cohesive. Because here's what's crazy. This was the first time the whole roster came together. And it was like, what a gargantuan attempt. The Russo brothers, I mean, of course it has to be brothers that have to direct that. There's no way one human being could direct this movie. It had to be 2, and they had to be related. So like, we got to share one. This is my last brain cell, and we share it together because we have to look. I mean, this poster doesn't even have all of them on there. That's so many heroes to keep track of. Not only that, but you're telling the beginning of the end. Infinity War is the first and second act of a story that was being told 10 years prior. Like, if you just take into account the magnitude of that and how much knowledge of the Marvel Universe you have to be in this movie, but also to put together this movie on the statistical end and the logistical end, that is amazing. Then on top of that, I just thought it was a great movie. They found a way to give everyone their purpose. And some people are like, oh my god, this character didn't do anything in Infinity War. Yeah, there are like 92 characters in this. There's like, everyone has to do something, and everyone is doing something. So, slow your roll, chill out. They did it well because they segmented it into different areas. So not everyone was all together at all times. They were able to separate it. So you had Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man going up into space, and then they met up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then you had Captain America and Vision and their whole group, the rest of the Avengers, meeting up with Black Panther, and then pulling in the rest of the I was going to say like Terran Earth heroes all together. And that way you were able to you kept Earth and space separate so that you could tell the story, but they still meshed together because they were happening in tandem, which was crazy. And then you also had just Thanos' story separate. So you had like 3 stories, 3 perspectives of the same story being told, all with like no less than 20 characters in each story. That was bananas. I remember being in the theater, and Core definitely went and watched Infinity War together. It was so much fun. We all decided to dress up as we always try to go to the premieres of Marvel movies together. That's just something we've always tried to do. And not everyone can make it every single time, but we always try to make it so that we all go as a unit. It's our bonding experience. So of course when Infinity War came out, we were like, no spoilers. We can't watch it until this day, I think it was a couple days after it came out. It came out on a Tuesday, and then we only got to watch on that weekend. So we're like, we're gonna dress up. That was the first time I got to dress up as Iron Man, and I made my Iron Man, and everyone was in different characters, and we rolled up as a full squad, and people were like, oh my gosh, you guys look dapper. And we're like, dude, it's Infinity War. It's about to go down. We went in the theater and we sat down. And I remember when the credits started rolling. I remember I didn't say anything for I'm pretty sure 20 minutes. everyone was kind of in their own. Usually we're immediately talking at the end. I did not say anything for 20 minutes. And finally someone was like, Kayla, are you okay? I couldn't speak because I had become so invested in these characters along with everyone else. And I was mourning in my own way, which was absolute silence, because you knew it wasn't going to have a happy ending. You knew Infinity War was going to get to a place that was really, you can't, okay, if Infinity War is act 1 and 2 of a 3-act story, act 2 is where you gotta hit the lowest point before act 3 you rise from the ashes and you come up and you finish with a big bang. So I knew at the end of Infinity War it was not going to be good, but you also didn't know who wasn't going to be there in the end. And so as you're watching who's disappearing, like, it was so bad, but it was also like, I wish I could go back to that moment and listening how invested the theater was in every single person that was disappearing. It hit you. Every single hero that dusted I felt all my fellow corpsmen, because we know who their favorites are. And so you could feel them just like dying next to you. And I was like, aside from that being just so devastating, what an icon, Marvel, that you made it so that by the time we got to this movie, we were so intertwined in the fates of these characters that it physically hurt us when they were gone. Yes, we cried. I remember, like, during the movie, ugly tears. Ugly tears. Just like, but like trying to listen so you don't want to be too loud. So I'm like, like, but then by the end, credits rolling, lights come up, I'm silent. I didn't speak in the car. It was, ugh. And like, that is a good movie. I remember I watched it so many times. It hurts every single time. It's like watching The Pursuit of Happiness again. Like, why would you watch that movie if you just didn't want to cry every 2 seconds? But that's what I have Infinity War, and I put it on, and I'm like, why? Why do I do this every time? Like, I know we've seen Endgame. We know what happens. But every time this movie plays, I go back to that moment. I'm like, oh, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. But the fight scenes were amazing. Like, to be able to give everyone their moment, give everyone their, like, power move. Stormbreaker coming out for Thor. Thor's one of my favorites. For those who know, I gotta turn on the air. I'm getting too excited. I can't breathe. Ugh, we need a fan in here. Thor is one of my favorite superheroes. So when he went and got Stormbreaker, I was just like, okay, so we're finally gonna give Thor his moment. I mean, we did it in Ragnarok. We're gonna do it here in Infinity War. I'm with it. Let's just show how amazing Thor is. Let's just, I mean, he withstands a star. Yeah, and then having Peter Dinklage, like, I just love that actor, and having him in there was phenomenal. I was just so excited. I loved Iron Man and Doctor Strange together. They were really great. You could tell that Robert Downey Jr. and Benadryl Claritin had great chemistry. They meshed so well, and so their scenes were so great, so hilarious, so well done. Fighting Squidward, like, that was awesome. It was also great having Spider-Man come back in so naturally. Like, we didn't have to have a grand entrance. He's like, well, you're in New York. You're in my neck of the woods. So I got to be part of this too. And then he got to be a kid. Like, we've always had Spider-Man be this older one. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man because he's the kid. He's the youngest one, which is a trait that Peter Parker kind of carries, even though he becomes an adult so many times in the comic books. He's always the youngest one. Everyone treats him like he's the kiddo. And so having him join Doctor Strange and Iron Man in space, it was like what a kid thing to do. Like, that's your mentor. Of course you're going to go follow him. Of course you're going to be like, let me just do what I can do. And I can't deny that I hate Peter Quill because of this movie. He ruined everything. I was like, sir, I mean, if you're watching this episode, you got to know. Spoilers. I mean, if you haven't caught up with Marvel, you were never going to catch up with Marvel. So, spoilers. I mean, do I really have to say that? when Peter got mad about Gamora, I was like, sir, okay. Drax lost his wife and his daughter, and in your movie, you best believe you were one of the ones that was like, get over it. Thor lost Thor lost everything. His home, his family, his world, everything. And then Thanos came, and the ones he saved, he killed majority of them. There was like a handful left. And then he killed his brother in front of him, and then he beat the crap out of him, and then he just sent him adrift. Like, for Peter to be like, I'm so mad that I'm just going to, like, poop on the entire plan. I was like, Peter friggin' Quill, you need to get it together. I understand that you love Gamora. Like, I get it. I'm sorry. You have to. Oh, Trixie gave me this terminology the other day. I forget what it was. But it's basically understanding that, yes, you are allowed to grieve. Yes, you're allowed to be upset. But there is a time and place. And it's definitely not when you're trying to subdue the one being in the entire universe that's going to ruin everything. So it's Peter Quill's fault. And you best believe in Endgame, when Peter Quill showed up, everyone in the theater was like, yay, yay. And like everyone at Marvel had to know. Oh, like Chris, what's his face? Which Chris is this? Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt, he knew. He was like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like, everyone's gonna hate me. And we did. And it's fine. He's okay. Peter Quill redeems himself later on. Does he? I don't know. Maybe. But yeah. So in Infinity War, because of the amount of passion and emotion that I felt watching it, definitely number 4 on the list. Coming in hot. We are now, coming in hot. Coming in hot at number 3 was actually the movie for me that was at the number 1 spot for 5 ever. It was the original. It was the first Avengers movie. Do you understand? Okay, when this happened, I wanted to poop my pants. I could, like, we had never gotten to this point prior to the Avengers. To get to a point where you got all your favorite superheroes and they had their full stories, and now they're going to team up. Team ups and everyone coming together or interacting with each other, favorite characters interacting with each other, is why we have fandoms. It's our favorite thing. Every time Batman had a movie and every time Superman had a movie, you're just like, but I know you're friends. And like, if you like got closer and like were in one movie together and talked to each other, it'd be fantastic. And I knew we felt that when like Tobey Maguire first came out with the Spider-Man movies, and you're like, you're in New York. And then X-Men was coming out with their Spider-Man. X-Men was coming out with like their movies, and you're like, you're also in New York. And you're like, you're both in New York. I know you know each other. Like, I know you're in the same city. Like, you definitely would be talking. And then they never did. And then this movie came out. And you're like, oh my gosh, they're gonna talk to each other. They're gonna talk to each other. And that was literally the most exciting thing ever, because this didn't happen. You didn't have individual superhero movies, individual origin stories, and then made it so that they could all fight together later on. And I know Joss Whedon, with everything that's been coming out with Joss Whedon, it is heartbreaking because he was one of my favorite directors. And even though he's one of my favorites, doesn't excuse any of his behavior. But I will say, not credit to the man, but credit to the work that he did with these actors. Like, what a perfect ensemble. The seamless way they came together, which as a director or a producer or anyone on the executive side, you worry. You get A-list actors on screen together and you're like, is this just going to turn into a pissing contest? Is it just going to be them trying to outdo each other and not really working together? But they worked together. It was choreographed. Their banter was choreographed. Their chemistry was choreographed. The way they moved around each other, the way they wore their characters and kept to their characters and made sure that their characters were true with how they interacted with each other was so exciting. Like, one of my favorite things was when you get into the friendship of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers in the comic books. One of the big things is that they did clash in the beginning because they have very different ideals. You have Captain America, who's like old school 50s ideals, and then you have Tony Stark, who's like the epitome of modern era. And they didn't see eye to eye, and then eventually they do build a relationship because Tony Stark is Iron Man, but he wanted to be more than just his suit, so he does regularly train with Steve. And then Steve, through Iron Man, was able to really let loose and not be so strapped into the ideals and the perspectives and that, closed off mindset that he had back during the war. So when they first met and you see that clash, you're like, I can see the beginnings of the friendship, but I like that. It's totally like an enemies to lovers idea with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. I was like, oh, you hate each other, but you hate each other in the best way possible. Like, you're low-key in love, and you're just gonna be great. And it was so good. But then you also got the relationship of Tony Stark with Bruce Banner, just the two science nerds. Like, I'm so happy that they gave them that moment to be science nerds together. So good. But then you also just got S.H.I.E.L.D. interacting with all of the Avengers. And then Coulson, we love Coulson. I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That show is, from day one, I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So Coulson was just great. And for him to have such an iconic role in the Avengers, which ended up creating his show on ABC, was just perfect. But also, we knew that we were going to get Nick Fury. Like, we already seen Nick Fury. We know this. We got Coulson and Thor. Great. Hawkeye coming out. I was like, when he showed up I was like, thank you, because you had Black Widow and Iron Man 2. And I'm waiting for Hawkeye. Because I think it's stupid that for a while it was like the trending thing of Hawkeye is the most useless Avenger. And I'm like, I don't know why this is supposed to be a joke, because it's not. Because he's not. It's like when people go, Sakura's trash. No, you know who's trash? You're trash. Because you're not a ninja. You can't do jutsu. So when people are like, Hawkeye's the most useless Avenger. No, you know who the most useless Avenger is? You are. You're useless. You can't shoot an arrow flying through the air and then switch it up and see everything. So boo on you, Hawkeye was totally needed. I was totally waiting for Hawkeye. And when he showed up at the beginning, I was like, yes, that friendship is the best. Black Widow and Hawkeye is like the coolest friendship in the comic books. And then Maria Hill walked in. And I was like, oh, Maria! Maria. I was so excited that Maria Hill was there. I was like, she's there. She's one of my favorites. And I was like, so like, if Nick Fury ever like doesn't take over S.H.I.E.L.D., we're gonna have Maria as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? Because Maria Hill, head of S.H.I.E.L.D., because I'm totally from Maria Hill as head of S.H.I.E.L.D. Maria Hill is one of like my favorite agents in S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, so good. So like, this was just, Avengers was the epitome of what we had been waiting for. It's what we all wanted Justice League to be. We know this. Avengers was what we wanted Justice League to be. The moment when all these icons come together and they become the world's mightiest heroes, the Avengers. And I love that they never said Avengers Assemble. And this is how good the franchise is, that they waited. Avengers was like the end of phase 1, beginning of phase 2. So then, like, how many years later, it's not until Endgame do we finally hear Captain America say the iconic words, Avengers Assemble? And you're like, wow, that was so good. Like, that's like when you read a fanfic and it's like in a trilogy and they reference something that they gave you in the first chapter of the fanfic and the last chapter, and you're like, why was that so good? That's what Avengers Assemble was. Like, to hold off on that until the very end was bone chilling. Like, they like the long game, talk about slow burn in the best way. But they started that spark in Avengers, and oh my gosh, I thought the fight scenes were phenomenal. To be able to show this, like, these very the small concentrated group and watching them play their roles. watching how Captain America he is the leader. He can see things. He's a strategist. He's the soldier. So of course he's going to call out the plays. But then he needs Hawkeye at the top to see what's going on. He needs Black Widow. She's like down on the ground with him. She's a foot soldier, but also she's special ops. So he's like, hey, you're just a human. You can't fly. You don't have super strength, but we're on the street. Can you climb to the top of Stark's tower and just like turn off the Tesseract? And she's like, yeah, bruh. And he's like, how are you gonna get up there? And she's like, I'll find a way. I'm gonna call this Uber. I'm gonna call this Chitauri Uber and just hop a ride and go. She's just a person. Do we understand that Hawkeye and Black Widow are just people? They're just people. They're just people. So every time people say Hawkeye was a useless Avenger, and every time someone says Sakura's trash, and I'm like, Hawkeye and Black Widow were just people, and they made a difference. So you don't get to call anyone trash that has powers, okay? We are trash. I'm trash. Sakura's not trash. I gotta put that in there. Y'all become from a girl Sakura. It's so expected. You say the name Sakura and people are like, she's trash. And I'm like, oh, have an individual thought for 2 seconds. Jeez Louise. Same with Hawkeye. And we've seen when Hawkeye's not in a movie, people don't see things coming because he sees everything coming. Nase. And then it was a good moment. That moment when Tony pushes the nuke through the wormhole, and that moment that ends up triggering him having to deal with PTSD in Iron Man 3, and what culminates in how he goes through everything all the way up until Infinity War and Endgame. Like, what a long game on that. What a great character arc for him. That he was, after Iron Man into Iron Man 2, he was living the good life as a hero, and then Avengers was where it started to really solidify in him the weight that comes with being a hero that Steve was trying to get him to understand. He's like, it's not all about the flash and the glamour. There's something heavy to this. There's a burden, a responsibility that comes with being a hero. And so that was great for his character. I'm so sad because Hulk never gets a good original storyline. For those who know, oh my God, what is his name now? Mark Ruffalo wasn't originally the Hulk for this. The origin storyline for Hulk that falls into the Avengers canon was Edward Norton's Hulk storyline. But when they were going into the extended universe, unfortunately, execs didn't want to work with Edward Norton because he had a different perspective of Hulk as opposed to what they wanted. So they recast it and they went with Mark Ruffalo. Did it totally work? 1,000%. Mark Ruffalo as Hulk is outstanding. But it's sad because we don't really get Mark Ruffalo's Hulk unless he's in other people's movies. The most backstory we got wasn't until years later when he shows up in Thor Ragnarok. And Thor Ragnarok is like trying to do Planet Hulk in a movie without doing a Planet Hulk movie. So it was just great. Like that moment when he finally becomes Hulk. And I love that they waited. They waited to show how he actually transforms into it, how he chooses to be in Hulk, and that it isn't a choice. It's just him accepting the side of him. Oh, brilliant. And then just Thor. Like, Thor and Loki was so great. I think I have to sneeze. Ay, nako. That hurt my brain. Ow. Sorry if that was loud. Ouch. That hurt right back here. Thor and Loki in Avengers was fantastic. And I don't know if you guys saw that. I don't even know if this is an Easter egg, but I took this as an Easter egg. When Loki goes to go get the whatever in Europe, I don't know. He breaks into that like museum or whatever, and then he comes out and he makes all the people bow, and that one man doesn't bow. And he says, well, there will always be men like you that will always ask us to kneel. And he's like, we will never kneel to men like you. That man was supposed to depict a Jewish man. And he's clearly referencing a time when the Jews were susceptible to the Third Reich and Hitler. Which is great because Captain America, who shows up later on, Captain America was a hero designed and made by two Jewish artists. back in the 40s as their way to use their imagination and use comic books to fight back against the Nazis, which is great because it's literally like, we know that's who Captain America fought against, but he was the culmination of two Jewish men using what they could to fight back in whatever way they could. So to have that go in there, that old man, and then to have Captain America come and with Iron Man stop Loki, I was just like, oh, to stand for what he stands for. Like, superheroes are so iconic though, and this is why I love them, because there's so much more than capes and shields. There's so much more than the Flash and the Fame. They mean something, and it was this movie was just, it did it right. They didn't try to go for camp. They didn't try to go for like, oh, we're just gonna bank on the fact that they're bankable characters. No, we're gonna make them good. We're gonna keep them in their integrity. We're gonna make sure that the actors love the characters and the story as much as the people in the audience, and that makes a bloody difference. You can see in the DC movies, if the actors care much about the characters as we do, it changes, and you can tell every single one of these actors really loved their character and wanted to do their character justice, and it just made such an iconic movie. So definitely number 3, we have the Avengers. Also, Mjolnir against the shield. Like, if you've ever played, oh my god, what is the video game? The Marvel video game. It's eluding me. Somebody help me. Somebody help me. The Marvel video game. What is it? Alliance. Ultimate Alliance. If you ever play Ultimate Alliance, that move is one of my favorite ones. Every time, like, we would play together, someone had to be Captain America and someone had to be Thor. And I'm like, do the shield. Or do the thing with Iron Man and the shield. Oh, just brilliant. Also, side note, if you notice, Captain America has a shield. Thor, they picked Thor because Mjolnir has a hammer. The only time you see any characters with like sharper objects that can show to kill, is not until you get into the R rated. You get into like Deadpool and all that stuff. But even Hawkeye has arrows and not a gun, because they wanted to show heroes that they're there to protect. It's not there to stop and kill. They're there to protect. So they chose items and weapons, like, because they're still weapons. They're like, oh my gosh, they're weapons. But if kids are going to see this, we want these weapons to signify protection as opposed to the offensive, as opposed to swords and everything. So just, ugh. So right now we have number 5 was Iron Man, the first one. Number 4 was Avengers Infinity War. Number 3 is The Avengers. Oh, it came out on May the 4th too. Like, iconic. Now we're going to go into number 2. Okay, number 2 was definitely number 1 for forever. After, when Avengers held number 1 spot, and then this movie came out and I said, oh, this is actually number 2 or number 1. And then actually this number 1 moved to number 2 from a movie that came out before it. So, well, we'll get into that. But my number 2 movie is Civil War. Oh, why are you in the way, Civil War? Why are you doing this? Get out. Move. There you go. As you know, if you watch the comic book episode, Civil War comic books, like the first Civil War, like bone chilling. Like, it sits in the marrow and it just vibrates and suddenly you're like, I have feelings. Civil War in the comic books, insane. When they announced they were going to do Civil War in the movies, I was like, I know it's not going to be the Civil War in the comic books. But the fact that they're even going to attempt something even slightly close to Civil War, I was so excited. It was, y'all, like, and then the way, and I was like, but how are they going to do it? Because in Civil War in the comic books, you're signing a different sort of accords. What it is that now superheroes had to register with the government. So if you were on SHIELD's side and Iron Man's side, you were registering your name. That means all superheroes had to give up their aliases, all of their personal information, and had to only work with what the government allowed them to do. So that put them at risk in that sense, where it's like they no longer had autonomy. They were now weapons of mass destruction for the US government, but also they were giving up any semblance of privacy or escape. So that's what in Civil War in the comic books, it was crazy because that's why one of the biggest thing was Spider-Man was on the side of Captain America because Captain America did not want to sign and register. So there was the two factions. Iron Man's side was the side with Shield registering as a hero, and Civil War or Captain America and his side was not registering and being autonomous and upholding in his in his respect the American dream is upholding these ideals, not the government. It was the American dream, not the American government that stood first and foremost. Sound familiar? But anyways, one of the big things was Spider-Man flipped over from Captain America's side to Iron Man's side in the comic books, and he had a huge press conference where he took his mask off and revealed himself as Peter Parker. And it was like, everyone was like, bah! And of course, that totally backfires, and it's crazy. Go read the whole series comic books. So when they said it's Civil War for the movies, I was like, well, that's weird because they're not hiding their identity in the movies. So a secret identity wasn't a crazy controversial subject in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I was like, I wonder how they're going to do Civil War, but try to keep that whole registering, not registering things. So, what was it? What do we call it? The Accords. The Accords was, I can't remember. Is it, not Genovia. That's Princess Diaries. Sarkovian Accords. I went to Geneva. No, the Geneva Convention is something different. The Genovian is Princess Diaries. The Sokovia Accords were supposed to be the replacement of registering. But it totally made sense in the whole scheme of the movie. That now these heroes, they have to take responsibility because you can't just go to foreign soil and create all this havoc and expect it not to have consequences. Which is crazy because in the comic books, I was 100% on Captain America's side. In the movie, I was kind of on Iron Man's side. I was like, I get where Iron Man's coming from. Especially with having to relate with someone in person, being like, who's going to take responsibility for my child that just out during, Avengers 2, during the time of Ultron, was killed for no reason because of something you created. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. This was intense. Also love this movie because it was like an Avengers 2.5. It was like it's the in-between in Kingdom Hearts. It's Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. It's Kingdom Hearts Remix. That's what Civil War was for the Avengers franchise. It was not quite an Avengers movie, but it was kind of an Avengers movie. And they were able to introduce new characters in that. They were able to reintroduce Bucky back into the mainstream of things because he showed up in Winter Soldier and then he was like, meh, but now he's back in here. And then they were able to introduce Black Panther. Oh my gosh. When Black Panther showed up, I was like, we have hit Mach 5. This is intense because we've already established the main heroes. We know that when superhero movies come out, we're going to get the main heroes. But you're always waiting for the next generation of heroes, which never happens because what usually goes on is that they'll introduce the main ones and then they'll restart the franchise over again and restart the origin stories over again, and they'll just recast the same characters. And you don't get any of these other characters joining in. DC, how many times do we got to get Batman's origin story before you finally give us a Robin? Robin. Just one Robin. I want one. It could be Dick Grayson. At this point, I'm not even going to complain. I just want a Robin or a Batgirl. Give me a. Give me Flash and then have him stick around enough so I get a Kid Flash. Or stick around enough so I can get a Martian Manhunter. DC, I'm never going to see Martian Manhunter. I'm just never going to get him. As much as I love that character. That's it. We're done. But we did it. Iron Man's there. Captain America's there. We even got Vision in there. We even got War Machine. We got War Machine in there. We're going to bring up Black Panther. And you're like, oh my gosh, we're getting it's getting good. We're dusting off the favorites and bringing them in. But also, I know she can't be there. And I know in Black Panther, everyone was so excited for the romance and everyone blah blah blah, but like I hardcore, as y'all know, I hardcore ship Black Panther and Storm. So immediately when Black Panther shows up, like he has just walked on the screen. He's not even the Black Panther at this point. He's just at the conference. And I'm like, oh my god, where's your wife? Like you haven't met her yet, but I need your wife to be with you so you can be together and you can just be the king and queen of Wakanda and I'll be happy in my heart. But like having Black Panther in there and then having him be an integral part and having him be the journey of forgiveness towards Baron Zemo was so good. The action in it was so good. The intent and the where the story went, like it was cool watching them be in this uncharted territory where now they're fighting against each other, which honestly, what we've done with Avengers is they kind of make their own problems. As Vision said, is that when heroes appear, the fatality rate will also skyrocket in relation to it. If y'all caught that, Vision broke it down. Broke down the parabola with you, how it works. So we've seen them create their problems and then fix them. That's just like a normal thing that happens in any action movie. Usually the hero creates their problem. But now they were fighting each other. And we were just waiting for them to throw down with each other. So that fight at the airport was so cool. And then to seamlessly bring in Ant-Man. And then to just seamlessly introduce Spider-Man. You're just like, I'm just going to casually bring in y'all's favorite. Like if you didn't know, Spider-Man is Stan Lee's favorite superhero of all time. Because Spider-Man is he represents all of the innocence and all of the wide-eyed wonder of being a superhero. And then understanding and maturing and growing and understanding that with great power comes great responsibility. So, of course, Spider-Man coming in, introducing the nugget that is Tom Holland. You're like, oh my gosh, you're just gonna throw that? And then they casually throw you Vision and Wanda in there, like their interaction, and I'm like, no, I shipped Wanda and Vision so hard from the comic books, and I was like, yes, interact, oh my gosh, it's Vision and Wanda, blah. So, like, this movie was so good. It was so good. Also, like, y'all just Captain America casually throwing in like 540s and B-twists. Like, that's just how he fights. It's so unnecessary. He doesn't need to be throwing these tricks. But he's like, from a standing, I'm just going to do it. Why? Because I'm Captain freaking America, and that's what I do. Holding this 8,000-pound vibranium shield. There's, casually, I'm just going to do that. But also, I love that they finally brought in War Machine in like a collective movie because he totally got benched during Avengers. And we'd only seen him in Iron Man, so it was great having him join in, like having the friends join in, and that was great. And again, we saw the glimpse of Falcon and Winter Soldier interacting with each other and how much they kind of just don't like each other. But that three-way fight of Winter Soldier, Iron Man, and Captain America, I couldn't breathe when that fight was happening. It was so good. So good, so intense, so emotional. And like watching this great friendship of Tony and Steve just deteriorate before your eyes because Steve couldn't let go of Bucky. And Tony couldn't let go. He couldn't forgive. And then having that juxtaposed of Tony not being able to forgive. And then just immediately after you show T'Challa meeting up with Baron Zemo and choosing to forgive for the death of his father was so, I was like, oh, just the two sides of the spectrum. You're just really gonna do that? You're just gonna hit us like emotionally and philosophically and epically all in one, and then for the Avengers to kind of be broken after that, you're like, oh no, what are we gonna do? Because the next Avengers movie after this is gonna be the big one, but you're kind of broken and blah, there's still phase 4. So Civil War was that one was good. I freaking loved this movie. I think I watched this one the most in the theaters. I think there was like 3 times that I watched this in the theaters because I needed to. I just needed to watch it in the theaters. So mad props to Civil War. That was number 2. Now, before we get to the number 1 spot, before we get to number 1, I have to do my honorable mentions. Because it's not that these ones didn't make top 5. They're definitely in the top 10. They just didn't make it past 5. Of course, I'm going to throw it to my girl, Captain Marvel. Brie Larson. When they casted Brie Larson, I was so excited. I loved her in Scott Pilgrim. I think she's a fantastic actress. Of course, when Captain Marvel was announced, you got all the trolls giving her all kinds of hell, saying she's not going to be a good superhero. Oh my God, she's so wooden when she acts. Blah, blah, blah. She's not the strongest. Blah, blah, blah. Even though the production studio was like, in our cinematic universe, Captain Marvel is hands down the strongest Avenger there. We're proclaiming that. That's in the continuity of the Marvel Cinematic Extended Universe. But you freaking weebs out there that just don't like women because you suck, we're like, no, she's not. Blah, blah, blah. She's pointless. She doesn't have any expressions. Yeah, screw you. Captain Marvel was a great movie. She's so cute and funny. I loved every second of it. She proved exactly what everyone who criticized her was wrong. Because she was like, you're going to come out. And it doesn't even matter if I do a good job. It doesn't matter if I beat the hero. It doesn't matter if I fight. It doesn't matter if I get thrown down and get up again. I don't have to prove anything to you. Which is why at the very end of that movie, that's what she does. She just goes, I don't have to go through this whole showdown with my mentor. I have nothing to prove. And the iconic that she was fighting with one hand tied behind her back with this chip suppressing her full power. I was like, what an iconic metaphor for almost all women out there in the world. Having to constantly prove yourself. She was an icon. Every moment of this movie hit so deep for so many of us, especially the women on core. We were like, this is it. And I love Captain Marvel. I loved her when she was Miss Marvel in the comic books. Love that she was able to take on the role of Captain Marvel. That they took the Miss out and she just got to be the captain. She got to hold the name of the entire comic book world, which is Marvel. And then just got to be the most powerful, like totally went Super Saiyan, which you're like, oh, I was waiting for this. I loved every second of it. I think this movie was just so much fun. It was so much fun, and Core knows that Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel means so much to me. Like, she's my girl. Ugh, this movie was great. Also, honorable mention goes out to Black Panther, because talk about a superhero movie that was like, we're going to be a superhero movie and we're going to be a Marvel summer blockbuster, but we're also going to hit you with the real talk. Like, we're going to address the race issue and it's going to be intense, and you're going to side with the bad guy because Killmonger makes sense. And he did. And it was heartbreaking because you're like, Killmonger's justified after everything, because he is, oh, I almost knocked over my thing. He is exactly what the Black and African American community has to deal with. Like, he wants retribution, which was so valid and real. And then he wanted to take what Wakanda had to offer, and he said, you need to go out there and save your people. And you're sitting in the audience and we were like, yeah, you do. Oh, and then after he defeats Killmonger, tell me why T'Challa's just the best, because he doesn't just go back and fall on his old traditions. He goes, oh, I'm going to learn. You know how people in movies don't learn? I'm T'Challa. I learn. And I'm going to actually take the lessons I got from Killmonger and I'm going to apply them. And then he changed it. What a great leader. Like, also Okoye, her fight scene in the red dress. Like, first of all, Michonne just showed up. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Michonne from The Walking Dead. You're fantastic. And then she just fights in a red dress. And it's beautiful. And it's seamless. And the Dora Milaje are just like the best. But also tell me why the dancing was fire. Tell me why the soundtrack is fire. Tell me why M'Baku was so not what we expected him to be, and he became one of the best characters, like a fan favorite, because he's just great. Like, this movie was so stinking good. It was funny. It was heartfelt. It was real. It made you uncomfortable because it made you face a lot of the things you see in everyday life. Like, Chadwick Boseman, he was a hero, and he will forever be Black Panther. He will ever stand for something so iconic. And this movie was iconic because it let the Black community and the African American community really say their piece in a blockbuster superhero Marvel movie. Like, what? Also, just Shuri. Like, that's it. Just Shuri. Being more brilliant than everyone else in the world. Can we just... Tell me why Wakanda kind of looked like Coruscant? Like Star Wars, you just go in there, you're like, oh, you're like way... You're like in a galaxy far, far away. Like, you probably have lightsabers and you're just not telling anyone because that would be unfair. So, Black Panther... Also, just having Wakanda as, like, the other character, like, the people and the nation, so good. Now that we have Wakanda and it can be there for us to visit again, fantastic. I need to drink my coffee. My last honorable mention, Iron Man 2. Not a lot of people liked it, or I guess some people didn't like it. I really loved Iron Man 2 because it just was fun. When he made his mark, was it the 5? The suitcase suit? Fantastic. I freaking screamed. War Machine. We finally got War Machine. That was amazing. Black Widow got introduced. Fantastic. I loved Iron Man 2. I actually really love all 3 Iron Mans, but Iron Man 2 does get an honorable mention. Now, the number 1 spot, because I talked too long about all that and I'm running out of time, the number 1 spot, which will feed into why it's now one of my favorite shows, is... You guys, if you have not watched Captain America, the Winter Soldier, you are missing out on, hands down, the best Marvel movie ever made. Can I just say, the fight scenes are... Oh, something snapped behind me. I got scared. The fight scenes are amazing. Like, that stunt team, the entire stunt team of Winter Soldier needs, like, their own Academy Award, because those fight scenes were fantastic. Like, so intense. Hardcore parkour. The whole feel of the movie. The elevator scene, I'm like about to rip my chair apart. That elevator scene was insane. And it also got to show you a side of Captain America that was like, not even darker. It's not that he went darker. He didn't go darker at all. He just was thrown a curveball, like the ultimate curveball. And then it just really established, this is what I say. Captain America Winter Soldier, to best explain it, is Captain America's 3 best friends fighting for his attention. That's the whole movie. That's the whole movie. Because you got Sam, you got Falcon, he wants his attention. Then you also got Black Widow, fighting for his attention. And then you got Bucky fighting for his attention. It's just like, it's like the Mean Girls 4-way call. And they're all just trying to get Regina George's attention because they just need her to love them. That's what the movie is. That's the whole movie. And it's fantastic. It's so stinking good. The storyline was great. And then the fact that it completely rewrote the Marvel world. Like, what a rewrite, that Hydra was a parasite within S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D. got taken down. This establishment, which kind of like was so sad because it really destroyed the show Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because they didn't know that's what was going on. So they had this whole establishment. They're like, we're S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, not necessarily meeting the big threats, but it's all about the cleanup of the big threats. And then Winter Soldier completely shattered that foundation, which was sad, but now then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was able to make this great storyline out of it. But like, what a way to just take this extended universe that you've been building and be like, oh, Jenga, like in a good way, not like a let's just destroy it just to have fun, like let's just set this anthill on fire. No, they did it in a way that it made sense, and you're like, how do we make Hydra relevant again? Oh yeah, they're like terrible people, so they grew inside the organization. And so this organization that literally stood for everything, that saved everyone in Avengers, that saved everyone in Iron Man 3, that was like so iconic. We're like, you know what, it was, I mean, and S.H.I.E.L.D. was there and everything. We're gonna take it down. We just gotta take it down. We're gonna completely destroy it. We spent all this time building up S.H.I.E.L.D. and there it goes. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, Yo, why was that movie so good? Tell me why that movie was so good. The fight scene between Bucky and Captain America on the street, just with the knife. Ugh, it was so good. Like, I want to throw up. It was so good. I rewatched it the other day. Joseph hadn't seen it, and I made him sit down and watch it with me, and then I like filmed his reaction. I gotta share that. But his reaction was so good. He's just like, Winter Soldier, which leads into that. So that was my number 1. We went through all of them. We had Iron Man as number 5. We had Infinity War as number 4. We had the Avengers for number... Wait, I meant 3. Yes, number 3. Civil War was number 2. And we had the Winter Soldier as number 1 spot. Which is why you should be watching The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+. And I wonder why you should watch... Oh, who's that? Who's that? As much as I love The Winter Soldier, and it's my favorite Marvel movie of all time because it's just fantastic, and I love the show, this is like this is 100% the reason why you should watch the show. Because that, you know, Nifa, as her husband, because he's a superhero. Just so you know. I don't even know if that's not even accurate, but he is. Yeah? He's just, so go watch it for this. Look at that. Look at that. Also, because Falcon and Winter Soldier had this and confirmed by Des. That's Des Dovich. Dovich? Is that how you say his name? Dovich? Look at that beautiful mane of hair. Everyone go follow Desmond Chim on Instagram and then just bask in the awesomeness that is him. He's like the greatest human being ever. Like, if there's someone you should be fangirling over, it's this human being right here. But it's great, and it's confirmed by, Nifa's husband, Des, is that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show has the same feel as Captain America's The Winter Soldier. The fight scenes are so good. They have that same brutality, that same intensity. So, like, my favorite movie, and then they just made a show out of it, I'm on board. I'm on board. We're just going to let this cycle through, yeah? How's that? We'll just have this, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, Des. That's Sammy's husband. No, it's not just bananas. That's bananas. She's married to that. He's an ultimate nerd, too. That's what's awesome. He's like he's a nerd. He's a geek. And it's great. It's great. Anyways, so that's my top Marvel movies. When this goes up on the YouTube channel, hit the comments. Tell me what your top 5 or 3 were. And you got to tell me why, though. You got to, like, type out the whole essay and tell me why. I love all Marvel movies. I have a deep love for all of them. I don't think I dislike any of them. Next week, I'm going to talk about the DC movies. And, like, here's the thing. I really want to like DC movies, but they just don't want to be liked. They do everything in their power not to be liked. I'm just saying. Anyways, now on to the exciting announcements. So if you're here just for core, we have something super exciting next week. Are you ready? Are you ready? Something exciting that has to do with core. So next week, where's this thing? So if you're a patron, next Tuesday, you get a special live stream glimpse into our rehearsal. What's in that rehearsal? Well, if you're a patron, you get to find out the set that we're doing. You get to find out what our new project is, what that set is made for, the whole shebang, who the characters are, who's playing the characters, and you just get to join us for rehearsal on live stream. So if you're a patron, you get to find out all of the secrets. All of them. All the secrets. And it's not going to go up anywhere. We're not announcing this stuff till way later. So if you want the inside scoop, you got to be a patron. They get all the inside scoop. It's going to be awesome. We're so excited to stream that very, very special rehearsal because we're going to break down everything that we've been doing all this time. All this little sneaky sneaks, all this little secret. Break it down. Now, how do you become a patron? Well, right there. We are on Patreon. You can be a patron for as low as $2 a month. You could go all the way up to $10 a month. A lot of it is special access to our very exclusive secret Facebook group where you get to interact with the core, access to our monthly exclusives, which is like the secret. We do game nights. Sometimes we do special stream discussions. There we're going to do a special rehearsal. Sometimes we do special tutorials. If you go up to $5, you get a special discount on our merch. And then if you go all the way up to the commander tier, which is $10, you get to be part of our officers club, and you also get special gifts and special items from Core. So if you can, come be a patron. If not, that's okay. We still care about you. You're still part of the whole comrade society. Are we a society? Is that even the right word I want to use? I don't know. This Friday, we have another Improve Your Improv on Instagram with my bro TP Liz. She's going to be hosting, and she's dancing with Caleb. Yes, Caleb. Nobody knows who you are. Caleb is dancing with us again for this special project. He's going to be the special guest. He's an amazing freestyler, and he's a total dweeb, and he's a big nerd. Like, he's the nerdiest nerd I've ever nerded next to. It's kind of crazy. He's also, like, the most talented nerd I've ever met. Like, if I put Caleb next to Goge, I think the world would explode. I'm pretty sure that's what would happen. Anyways, this Friday, join us on Instagram. They're going to do a whole freestyle session, and then you can ask questions. It's going to be awesome. This Friday. Don't forget, we are still... Oh, why are you over there, bruh? Don't be over there. Go over here. We are still collaborating with The Coldest Water. I am so bad at drinking water. Mainly because I forget my water bottle. So the fact that this is Hanji yellow helps. Because if it's not a bright color, I'm just gonna forget it. But I always actually make sure that I have my Hanji Coldest water bottle. What's cool is that this one is awesome. It's a special Core Dance Crew edition. If you use our code CORE at promo when you check out on The Coldest Water, you get 10% off. You do not get this engraved on there, but if you follow us on Pop Shop Live, the next time we have a Pop Shop Live, we might have a special Pop Shop Live decal that you can put on your Coldest Water bottle, because it's all going to come full circle. It's Coldest Water. The water that is the coldest. Now, it's funny because some Coresmen don't like cold water. They like the room temperature water. I like it cold. I'm a winter baby. I was born on Christmas. I'm actually not Hanji. Hi, my name's Levi Ackerman. I was born on Christmas. I like the dead of winter. I like it cold. I like it that burns your brain out with freezer burn, because my name's Icy Hot and I'm Todoroki. So this really does keep it cold, like way too cold. Like it is a tundra cold. It is unnecessarily cold. It hurts you cold. It's so bad cold. This is what I like it. So, there we go. Am I done? Is she done? I'm done. That's it. That's all. Thank you for joining me on this week with... What am I doing? I was going to say joining us for the Core Dance Group. That's not what this is. This is Beyond the Northern Wall, your weekly talk show with me, your host, Kayla Malari. I'll be back next week. We're totally going to ride on DC. And here's the sad part. I love DC. And I just want them to be better. I just want them to be better. Don't we all want them to be better? I want them to experience the joy that Marvel has experienced by having good movies. Yeah? Yeah. So join me again next week. Hey? Make sure you subscribe to our channel. I never say that, Nifa. I'm so bad. Like and subscribe. I mean, you don't have to like it if you don't want to, but like, subscribe, because we have a lot of cool things coming on this channel, and you got to make sure that you know that it's happening, right? Do people subscribe to things anymore? Remember when we used to subscribe to, like, newspapers? Anyways, let's bring it in. The call out for Core is Sotomato on 3. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. You hit your heart, the Core version of offering your heart up for humanity. You take a pause and you yell, Sotomato. Ready? Let's call it out. Here we go. Sotomato on 3. 1, 2, 3. Sotomato. Thank you for joining me here. Thank you, TikTok. TikTok, if once I'm done with this live, you guys can pop onto TikTok. I'm going to just talk about the cleanup of what happens after Beyond the Northern Wall and all that jazz. So, peace out, girl, boy, non-binary scout. You like that? Stop Asian hate. Black Lives Matter. Peace!